New killer, new perks, new tier list. Today I will be rating every single killer from worst to best. So starting off with the D tier, we have the Legion. Now I know this might sound sad, but the Legion right now is the worst killer in the game. Not only have they suffered massively from the Circle of Healing boom, but they are literally the only killer in the game who have to play as an M1 killer in order to down someone. Every single killer in the game aside from Legion has something that helps them down the survivors. I mean, if you want to count Frank's mixtape, then go ahead, but worry not, as the devs have confirmed that these guys will receive a reward, so this position is temporary until we see what they do to them in April. Now we jump right into C tier, and every single killer from now on can actually compete with survivors, but they need some buffs in order to become good. The Trapper has fallen from high C tier to the second worst killer in the game, and it's all due to consistency. Trust me, I played a perkless and addonless Trapper in the Ivy of Crows, and the experience was miserable. He's very map dependent, every map now is bright as f***, and survivors have become more competent. It's really nice that they buffed him and added some very interesting add-ons, but in spirit, he's the same remnant of 2016 killer design. To be fair, he's very fun to use and satisfying when you trap someone, but I think they have to add something new to him. A secondary power like another kind of trap, maybe barbed wire that you can place on windows, and you can change between the two traps if you interact with chests. So, Clown, the only character in the game that can help survivors, but he's very lacking. No map mobility, no game slowdown, no tracking, gets hard countered by dropping pallets early, and his best add-on just got nerfed. His afterpiece tonic is quite annoying in 1v1 situations, so there are killers that just do his job better, and his yellow tonic is not enough to be a game changer in map mobility. However, if this was a belly tier list, he would be in S tier. I don't know what changes they can do to buff Clown without making him very oppressive, so I'll leave that job to you guys in the comment section. Michael Myers has a very bad early game because he has to start in tier 1. However, the longer the match goes, the more chances Myers has in order to turn the tides in his favor. This is not enough in the current meta. Survivors can just wait out to his tier 3, or you can make a mistake and activate tier 3 early. Myers is a very fun character to play, and he has very flexible add-ons. Scratch Mirror, Vanity Mirror, the Tombstone add-ons which are absolutely broken, Infinite tier 3, the Glass Shards. Behavior also fixed a bug that made his talk inconsistent, so now he is great to use. With the release of the new Sawtone, I have started playing and enjoying the pig a lot more. This also made me see her flaws more, and sadly she has two that impact her very much. First one, the RNG on her traps. For some survivors, the pig is the most busted character in the game because you have to search all 4 boxes. For me as a killer, everyone gets the trap off in the first box. She's very inconsistent. Not only that, her stealth factor is kinda meh. She's the only stealth killer that walks slower while in stealth, and with killers like Sadako who can just appear out of nowhere and hit you, I think it's time to buff her speed while crouching. Finally, her ambush attack, which is part of her crouch ability, can be useless in plenty of situations if you go against smart survivors who simply go to another loop while you try to mind game. But in all honesty, because of these reasons, I think the pig is the perfect killer for new players to practice the basics of a chase. In my previous tier list, Deathslinger was the worst killer in the game for me because there was no reason to play him. Since that day I have met Starstruck. While I still hold my view that he is the worst ranged killer in the game and the killer who suffers from having no pressure the most, Deathslinger can find himself a niche if you use perks like Noed, Haunted Grounds, or an exposed perk, since his main power comes as a basic attack. The nerfs still hurt to this day, feels clunky to use and aim with, and they didn't fix the fake problem that survivors complain about, but hey, at least he found a place in the new meta. Trickster is still the same killer as last time, being very lethal in many dead zones but very weak once you add walls into the equation. There isn't much to talk about. Now we're going to talk about B tier killers, or killers that are balanced but can be weak if you play against the top MMR. Ghostface is our first and weakest B tier killer, but that doesn't mean he's bad. He has strong stealth factor that was buffed in the mid chapter, and now he's a little bit less add-on dependent, but his add-ons still suck very much. Good thing is that he will be changed alongside Legion in the next mid chapter, and I really hope they don't change his kit, but instead they rework every single add-on to make him fun to play as. Because of this reason, I decided to leave him temporarily in this spot. I have to admit that I might be a bit biased since I just don't like playing as on against the Doctor, so I'm not the best at him, but I don't see him being A tier anytime soon. He has strong anti-loop that a lot of Doctors don't know how to use, and he's the killer with the best tracking in the entire game. But to play him well, you have to know how to play an M1 killer, and there are so many loops that depend entirely on the survivor's looping skill that there isn't much that the Doctor can do. And if you remember the old Object of Obsession perk, knowing where survivors are does not mean anything if you cannot take them down fast. Wraith got hit with a nerf that has made him less enjoyable than he previously was. Survivors have become more competent, and with perks like Bone, Circle of Healing, Spine Chill, and Death Heart being so prevalent in this meta, Wraith can't compete as he could in the past with his hit and run playstyle. He's still a great pick, but not the menace he once was. It is still very early to tell exactly where the Onryo will be, but after her PTB buffs, I think she's a mid B tier killer. She has insane map mobility as she can be anywhere around the map, but she doesn't have any anti-loop and she can suffer from having boons in the map, and despite being probably the killer with the best map presence in the game, she has no map pressure because her condemned mechanic is useless even after the buff. I still need to practice with her a lot. Her new buff dematerialization mechanic around loops could be used, but I don't think it's good enough to be an A tier killer, so we can see where she is lacking. One thing is for sure, this killer is one of the best designed killers in the game, a breath of fresh air, and honestly, a very good job so far. Thanks, behavior. Nemesis zombies can be a menace and at the same time stuck on a tree for the whole match. Not only that, but he got his best add-on nerf, and remember that he still has to hit survivors 3 times with Tentacle Strike. Deadman Switch is actually really great on him when it works, and they buffed the zombie speed add-ons. He's a strong killer, don't get me wrong, but with some tweaks to his add-ons, he could be way more interesting than he currently is, as he plays the same no matter what build you have. Just give him an Iridescent add-on where he gets an RPG or a flamethrower, please.
I came.
Cenobite is still very broken against solo queue survivors, even after his add-on nerfs. If you know what you're doing, you can be constantly activating chain hands, which is very oppressive for survivors, but he still has the problem of being countered by competent survivors. His chains are not very consistent while chasing a survivor, and they are very high risk but low reward most of the time unless you spawn the chain right on top of the survivor you're chasing. If he was not nerfed, he could easily be A and even S tier. Bubba is still a strong pick, especially if you want to camp the basement. Jokes aside, he's a strong killer who can brute force the pallets around the map and is very lethal once he gets the ball rolling and hooks the first survivor. Nothing significant has changed about him, so he's in the same spot. Hillbilly will still be a controversial pick, but I am a firm believer that Hillbilly is stronger than Leatherface. However, he is the hardest killer to master in the game if you want to use his power only. I would even go as far as to say that Hillbilly is harder to land than Nurse if you think about using his chainsaw exclusively for every loop, but it doesn't seem like that because unlike her, he has the choice to play as a standard M1 killer and avoid using the chainsaw. I still remember when Hillbilly was always on the high A tier rankings on every list, but after the overheat mechanic, the scream he does after using his chainsaw, and overall nerfs to his add-ons, I think it's safe to say that he is a B tier killer. The Demogorgon is for me the most balanced and perfect killer in the entire game. He has everything a killer needs, he's very fun to play as and against, and I would not change absolutely anything about him. Now we're going to talk about A tier killers, and killers here can demolish a survivor team, and they feel strong. These killers are good enough that they don't require any changes anytime soon, except one killer that we will talk about later. Freddy Krueger was previously a B tier killer, but now with the new Deadman switch, that perk alone has made Freddy so broken that it even feels unfair. The amount of gen defense you can have at any time no matter where you are in the map is ridiculous. He's still the same killer with the bloated kit. I don't think the nerf was as bad as many people apparently feel. He's probably the easiest killer to use and do well from the entire game, and with this new perk he has the greatest gen defense with just a simple press of a button. The Oni has received a buff to one of his Iridescent add-ons, and now it's actually a bit decent. Aside from that, Oni is still the best snowballing killer in the entire game, and he still suffers from that early game problem where if you get a decent survivor, you cannot get blood from your power. I also see him being strong with the new Scourge hook. I have to run more tests with it. You know what? I actually agree with Patrick. I think the twins are mechanically broken, they are clumsy and fun to play against, but if you play them the scummy way, they are monsters. All you have to do is camp, slug, tunnel, all things that the twins excel at. They also come with the added bonus that not many survivors have played against them, and as such, they don't know how to counter them. If you watch competitive DVD, you would know that the twins can be placed at S tier. However, since this tier list is not competitive based, they are on the A spot, and they need a rework or some heavy quality changes in order to be good again. They also nerfed the only good add-on, which was the toy sword. Was that really needed? The Huntress is another killer that I would not change in any way. Her power is perfect, it is balanced, useful, easy to understand, but with a high enough skill ceiling that really differentiates baby Huntresses from the masters like Coconut. And with the new Scourge hook that comes with Sadako, the Huntress is better than ever. The Hag is another killer that is very underrated. She's strong and actually easy to use. There's one thing that is controversial right now, which is the fact that she can trap hooks very close, unlike modern design killers like the Executioner or the Artist, killers that cannot use their traps close to the hook. I think if you are lazy, then the Hag is the killer that you should main, simply because her traps are so good at making chases short if you know how to place them. She's the literal definition of work smart, not hard. With this new Circle of Healing meta, the best anti-heal killer ends up being one of the top killers in the game. The Plague is another killer that is very underrated and underpicked, mainly because of how different her playstyle is compared to the rest of the cast, but learning her is very worth it. She completely nullifies any medkits or Circle of Healing boons there are around the map, and on top of that, her new add-ons have made her so fun to play as due to her now having different playstyles that you can try. I even made a stealth Plague build that you can check out after this vid if you don't believe me. I think right now it's the best time to play and main Plague because you don't feel this meta change at all. When the PTB was released, I started playing Pyramid Head more and more in order to save up on points, and I cannot believe how strong he actually is. He has a range attack that goes through walls and can down healing survivors. He can cancel the attack as well, so remember the cries of survivors complaining about Deathslinger. Pyramid Head is just worse, because there are situations where the survivor just goes down unless you are drunk, and that's not the best part. The best is his Bite of Judgment power that applies Tormented to survivors, because you can counter Borrow Time and Decisive Strike, and absolutely tunnel the living fuck out of that annoying survivor. And the only thing stopping you from tunneling is your own moral, so throw them out of the window and you get in your hands the Punisher of Dead by Daylight. And now we're going to talk about the 4 S tier killers that are currently in Dead by Daylight. I think these killers are very strong, they can be competitively viable, and they also can do some crazy montage-worthy plays that can change the tide of the game completely. The Spirit is still one of the strongest killers in the game, even after her nerf. She's fast, scary, and can down survivors really quick, but now she offers counterplay. To everyone that is playing killer nowadays, you are sleeping on the Artist, and now with the Dead Man Switch perk being so good, she has become an absolute beast. She's the killer that can take advantage of this perk the best. She can hit across the map, she can completely nullify some loops forcing survivors to leave them, she can pressure more than one survivor at the same time she's chasing another one, she can trap hooks, snipe gens, has insane tracking, makes some crazy plays, and even after everything I have said, she's still a 4.6 killer. For some reason nobody plays her, nobody mains her besides some small streamer, nobody likes her, but why? She's strong and she offers everything needed in her kit in order to become viable. Put on Lethal Pursuer, Pain Resonance, Deadman Switch, and a perk of your choice, and you can demolish any survivor teams if you know how to use them effectively. The Blight got a massive buff to one of his most useless add-ons, the Adrenaline Vial, and if he was strong before, now he's even better. This killer is probably the killer with the highest skill ceiling in the entire game, even more than Hillbilly and the Nurse. This is because this killer offers many techniques, and knowing which walls you can bump or slide into is very crucial in order to play this killer well. He is very fast, he's strong, and he combines well with the new perks in the game. Try the Adrenaline Vial add-on and you will see how good the Blight can be, as it makes him easier to play. I don't think anyone is surprised by her position on the list. The Nurse is, and will be until the end of the game, the best killer in DBD, and has been since her introduction in 2016, so if you want the best killer in Dead by Daylight, just be a Nurse main. And that's about it. Remember that this list is subjective. I have played some of the killers in order to reaffirm my opinion on them, so you can see those videos on my channel if you click the links on the left, and if you want, you can subscribe to my channel and help me grow. Thank you so much for watching.